ราบสวัสดีท่านแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านนะคะแล้วก็ต้องขอต้อนรับทุกท่านค่ะได้เข้าสู่งาน Sustainability Expo 2023 นะคะซึ่งช่วงเวลาต่อจากนี้ค่ะจะเป็นเซสชั่นนะคะที่จะได้ร่วมทอล์กกันในหัวข้อ Sufficiency for Sustainability โดยมีดิฉันสไรชัดกุลชรนิติยาจิรแพทย์นะคะรับหน้าที่เป็นผู้ดำเนินรายการค่ะสำหรับงานในครั้งนี้นะคะเราจะทำการบรรยายเป็นภาษาอังกฤษนะคะดังนั้นเนี่ยอยากจะประชาสัมพันธ์ว่าเรามีหูฟังแปลภาษาบริการให้กับทุกท่านเลยนะคะถ้าหากว่าอยากจะใช้เนี่ยสามารถไปแลกรับได้นะคะจะเป็นโต๊ะที่เสาหมายเลข 5ตรงข้ามกับเวทีของเราเลยนะคะสำหรับงาน Sustainability Expo 2023 ในครั้งนี้นะคะเราได้ทำการจัดกันขึ้นมาค่ะเพื่อที่จะสร้างความตระหนักรู้ในเรื่องของความยั่งยืนในสังคมวงกว้างนะคะแล้วก็ให้ความสำคัญค่ะกับการลงมือปฏิบัติจริงรวมถึงสร้างความร่วมมือระหว่างภาคส่วนต่างๆเพื่อให้ได้ผลลัพธ์ที่เป็นรูปธรรมแล้วก็เกิดประสิทธิผลอย่างแท้จริงนะคะ The main objective of Sustainability Expo 2023 is to raise public awareness on the importance of the sustainability development across all sectors of the society. Beyond awareness, this expo also aims to stimulate actions from each individual and to build collaboration across all types of organizations and communities to create a long-lasting impact. Now, this session aims to provide an opportunity for the audience to reflect on the true meaning of sustainability and the different philosophies underlying this concept. ฉะนั้นลำดับต่อจากนี้ไปนะคะเราก็จะได้เข้าสู่ช่วงเสวนาค่ะโดยในครั้งนี้นะคะเราได้รับเกียรติจากผู้ทรงคุณวุฒิทั้งหมด4ท่านด้วยกันนะคะ and here are our honorary speakers. First, please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Stephen B. Young, Global Executive Director, Co-Roundtable for Moral Capitalism. Next, please welcome หม่อมหลวงดิษฐ์ปนัดดา ดิษฐกุล Chief Executive Officer แม่ฟ้าหลวง Foundation. Next, Professor Tetsunori Koizumi, Director, International Institute for Integrative Studies. And also, please welcome to our moderator. Please welcome Dr. Suriporn Bunbongkan Chupawang, Director of Foreign Affairs Department, the Chai Patana Foundation. ขอมอบหน้าที่นี้ให้กับคุณสุริพรนะคะเรียนเชิญค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ 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 Good morning to all of you. Good morning, everyone. Dear speakers, guest of honors, and definitely participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to be here with all of you today to serve as the moderator for this session on sufficiency for sustainability. Well, it's not my first time here to serve as the moderator on this forum. Last year, I was also invited to serve as a moderator. Thank you very much, Sustainability Expo 2023, and also ASEAN for including me on this forum. Well, this morning, we have an honor to have the three distinguished speakers with all of us here today, and we're going to have a wonderful sharing, a wonderful talk, and wonderful discussion on sufficiency economy that will eventually lead to sustainability. Well, I guess all of you have been aware that in the year 2016, or 7 years ago, 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, were adopted as part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Well, actually, we have 7 years left, right? And probably some of you might say, 7 years, come on, it's such a long time from now. But probably some of you might say, 7 years, we are running out of time, we don't have enough time anymore. Because if we break down 7 years into months, it's equal to 84 months. So are we running out of time, or do we still have time? We're going to find out today. And definitely, we're going to learn about sustainability. Is it simply a buzzword? Or if it's not, can sustainability be achieved? And what about the good balance? Right, so today, it is time for me to welcome our 3 speakers who are already on the stage. Well, probably some of you might be wondering because in the program, they said that there are going to be 4 speakers. But unfortunately, one of our speakers, Venerable Anilaman Sakaya, he is very, very busy man. He's been traveling quite extensively, so he just came back from Nepal on Friday, so he's not feeling well. So that is why, unfortunately, he cannot join us on this session. But we have altogether our 3 distinguished speakers here with us today, so we're going to have a wonderful talk on the session. So let me welcome our first speaker on my far right, our first speaker, Professor Stephen Young. And many of you may already know that he currently serves as the Global Executive Director of Core Roundtable of Moral Capitalism. And he's extensively involved in academic because right now he serves as a visiting professor at Sasin School of Management. And a lot of people also know him as an author. And with his background as the son of the of the former US Ambassador, Kenneth Young. US Ambassador to Thailand, Kenneth Young. It makes Professor Young become so interested in Thai history and also the Thai culture, and definitely sufficiency economy, and also the king's tenfold kingship virtues of His late Majesty, as he already highlighted in his book entitled King by Virtue. Right, so a round of applause for our first speaker, please.
ขอบคุณมากครับ
And the second panelist, let me welcome Mom Luang Ditpanada Diskun. Mom Luang Ditpanada is the CEO right now at Mae Fa Luang Foundation under royal patronage. He has a great interest in sustainability and sustainable development because he's been taking care of the foundation's rural development initiatives. And also, he is overseeing the foundation's enterprise, which is Mae Fa Luang Doi Tung Development Project. And last but not least, we cannot miss him for this panel. Please welcome Professor Tetsunori Koizumi. Currently, Professor Koizumi serves as the Director of International Institute for Integrative Studies. Professor Koizumi has an extensive teaching career in both United States and also in Japan. Although Professor Koizumi's background is based on economics, also his interests also cover a lot on Buddhism and also social change. Well, let me start with a talk. All right, start first with Professor Young. As you have quite a lot of experiences and extensive background on both, Western and Eastern cultures, right? So I would like you to share probably with the audience on what are the factors or effective tools that will lead to sustainability in terms of, in the Asian context, and what about in the Western culture? Please, Professor.
Thank you very much. But first, I would like to apologize to the Thai audience. เดี๋ยวนี้ครับผมพูดภาษาไทยไม่เก่งเลยครับผมเคยอยู่กรุงเทพ63 ปีแล้วแล้วก็เดี๋ยวนี้บางทีผมจะพูดภาษาอังกฤษขอโทษครับ To respond to your question, I would like to say that, and I'll introduce myself in a little bit, but I would like to say as a main thought that the intellectual contribution of His late Majesty, King Rama IX, is applicable can be applied both in the East and in the West. It is a universal kind of thinking and advice for each one of us as a person. And this to me is remarkable. And the first picture up there, a little bit of background on myself and His Majesty in Thailand so you can understand my thinking. This is a picture from 1961, which is my father, as John talked about, is presenting his credentials to His Majesty as to be ambassador, Jack Kennedy's ambassador to Thailand. This is a picture of our family in 1961 in the Grand Palace. I'm standing next to my dad. This is an article published by The Nation, and the photograph sort of cuts off the heads. But my dad, by the way, had a very close relationship with His Majesty. And my mom had a close relationship with Her Majesty. And so in 1984, His Majesty gave me an audience in the Grand Palace, and he talked to me for 1.5 hours about Buddhism. And I was young, as you can see, and I remember leaving changed inside by this man who was a king, who was thinking deeply about Buddhism as it was going to help the Thai people. And he was sharing his ideas with me back then. Years later, I recognized that what is now we talk about as Sedikit Popian, sufficiency economy, was forming in his mind over many years. Interestingly, today, and I will come back to this, another king, King Charles III of the United Kingdom, wrote this book 13 years ago, looking for an approach to harmony, balance between people and nature, between rich people and poor people, between consumption and creation. And he's looking for harmony. I would like to suggest, and we plan to do this, John, with our organization, to introduce the thinking of King Rama IX to King Charles III. Now, let me move forward and talk a little bit about my thinking as a Farang about the Thai words Sedikit Popian. The Thai concept of Popian, I think, is not easy for a lot of Farang, particularly Americans, Europeans, to understand, because we have not been raised in a Buddhist environment. But I would like to suggest that as we think about the international, global application of the contribution of His Majesty King Rama IX, we should not just think of one word or two words, but we should think of other words which help us bring to mind what the current word in sustainability is mindset. Bring to mind a mindset as to how we should think, how we should act. I would also like to say, in the Chinese tradition, there is something very similar in this, which in Chinese I think it's called Xin, the Xin. In Vietnamese it's Tâm, the Tâm, it's the heart-mind. What I think we're looking at here, and this is maybe a more unique Asian contribution, is that we should not separate out the left brain, the intellectual brain, mathematics and physics, from the right brain, which is feelings and emotions and insight. So the right brain maybe is more heart, the left brain is more head. But if we look at some of these words, and my own personal feeling from studying His Majesty and my talk with him is that he would accept all of these words as important. So we have equilibrium, balance. Something is sufficient because it's right, it's fitting, it is balanced. It is not too much on the left, it is not too much on the right. The concept of enlightenment. I have also had the honor to get to know Pra Anil, who is not with us today, and I've learned a lot from him over the last 4 or 5 years. And he directs my thinking back to the Buddha himself, So when he talks to me about Buddhism, just as His Majesty did, it's not about Watts, it's not about monks, it's not about Tambun, it's not about going before the Buddha image, it's about where our mind is. It's about enlightenment. If we are enlightened about the economy, about business, we will be more successful and we will make a better world. Balance. If you're balanced, you're sustainable. And there are other concepts in there. If you're focused, if you're not distracted, you will move forward. You will feel better about yourself and you will be more successful. You will provide something that's appropriate for reality. You also need insight. Now, I believe that the work that my colleague Kunduk has done with Mei Fa Lung and others, and so many in Thailand, practical work with people, with villages, with business, it demonstrates that all these ideas in our head make us better people in a better world. Thank you.
Well, that's certainly, the differences between the two sides of the world. And I hope that both sides can collaborate and make use of the factors, whatever Professor have mentioned to create sustainability. Well, let's move to Professor Koizumi. Professor, I've read some of your works, and there are quite a number of interesting points and interesting thoughts on that. And one of them is debt capitalism. I think it would be great for you to share, and for the for the audience to learn from your point of view about capitalism. I think capitalism and sustainability, can these two terms go hand in hand together? Because I've heard a lot about green capitalism, I've heard a lot about sustainable capitalism. So can they be the road to sustainability, please?
Thank you. I am honored to be invited to this distinguished panel talking about sustainable development. I am very much impressed with what Thailand is already doing, trying to accomplish sustainability. What I have to say will be based on my research as social scientist and Buddhist scholar. And the first word, Santuti, is supposed to be S-A-N. Santuti, Sanivaso Sati. You didn't have time to correct it. That's all right. I'd like to begin my presentation with the word sustainable development. The word sustainable development made its official debut, so to speak, when World Commission on Environment and Development published its report titled Our Common Future back in 1987. There, the Commission defined sustainable development as sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, the Commission, by this definition, they also try to elaborate what they mean by sustainability. And in their conception, the conception of sustainability, according to the World Commission, consists of three components: environmental component, social component, and economic component. So sustainability is not just one-dimensional phenomenon, but it's a multidimensional. In this case, environmental, social, and economic. Now, when I looked at this definition or conception of sustainability by World Commission, I thought something was missing. One important dimension is missing, and that comes to next. The way I see it, our existence as a human species takes place with respect to the natural environment, social environment, and spiritual environment. And that spiritual environment, I believe, is a very important aspect of our existence. We are not just a biological species, we are not social animals, but we are also spiritual beings whose existence depends very much on what we do with our own mind. The way I define natural environment as a space of interaction between mind and life, it's a very simplified view of what natural environment is all about. And social environment, emphasizing the economic aspect of our existence, it's an interaction between machine and labor. And spiritual environment, I think of the environment defined as a space of interaction between language and mind. I will not go into detail what these three dimensions mean, except I'd like to move on to the concept of sustainability. Now, the way I conceive of human existence taking place in the three environments means sustainability must also be defined in terms of those three environments. So I see three dimensions to sustainability. Natural sustainability means like you are already familiar with such concept as biodiversity or ecological balance. And by social sustainability, we mean equitable distribution of income between rich and poor, also intergenerational equity, which the World Commission emphasized in its first report back in 1987. But I also like to emphasize its third dimension, spiritual sustainability. And it has to do with our consciousness. Consciousness about ecological interdependence, that we must develop our awareness about ecological interdependence with all the other things in the environment. And that requires commitment to mindful living, which I will explain in more detail later. So sustainability is not just one-dimensional concept, but at least three dimensions as I see it. Now, by making connection with what we are doing right now in a kind of capitalist system we live, I'd like to refer back to the concept of three poisons that discussed in Buddhism. Here is Buddha's words. Well, in Pali, three poisons are called lobha, dosa, moha. Greed, hatred, and delusion of every kind are unwholesome. Whatever action a greedy, hating, and deluding person he heaps up by deeds, words, or thoughts, that too is unwholesome. So this is Buddha's conception of unwholesome actions. And unfortunately, why these are unwholesome actions? In terms of our impact on our living environment, greed leads to destruction of health and sustainability of natural environment, the greed in terms of material things, exploit natural resources, hatred, it's a destruction of cohesion of harmony of the social environment. This happens in the workplace. And delusion leads to destruction of right view and right understanding in the spiritual environment to develop healthy understanding of what our place is in the universe. So three poisons lead to three unwholesome impact on the environment. Now, the global capitalism that we have been living under, and we are still living under this global capitalism, in a way, is a system that promotes or perpetuates three poisons. Greed is promoted or perpetuated because capitalism is a system that tries to maximize profits, returns, and utility as a goal of human activities. Maximization. Well, traditional economists call this a rational behavior, but rationalization is discussed in terms of maximization of profits, returns, and utility. Now, hatred is also involved in capitalism because there is a manipulation of human relations in the workplace, workers versus owners of capital. And there is also manipulation of information in the market. You talk about how Dow Jones is doing, and if you have some head start on gaining information to what's happening in the financial market, that helps you in the market. So there is manipulation information too, and information in terms of commercials for consumer products. That's also sometimes misinformation is spread about the efficacy of the product that you are trying to purchase. Now, delusion is also involved in global capitalism because there is a misconception about availability of natural resources. There is the finite universe we live in. There is only finite availability of natural resources. Therefore, there is no such thing as perpetual growth or growth of GNP growth for forever. That's impossibility. And also misconception about human welfare. What is our happiness? Well, global capitalism tries to capture happiness in terms of material well-being, how well endowed we are in terms of goods and material goods that we have available to us. So global capitalism, unfortunately, is a system that perpetuates these three poisons, as Buddhists would say. So, well, some young people are waking up to the reality of the capitalistic system. Here is Greta Thunberg. She made a speech at the United Nations back in 2019 when she was only 16 years old, and was very pertinent to what we are talking about here. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How clever she is in terms of seeing what is happening in the capitalist world. Now, in the meantime, in the world around us, this is happening. We already saw this. This July 27th, this year, Antonio Guterres, our Secretary General, issued this warning to us. We are not talking about global warming anymore, right? Since we are in the era of global boiling. And coming from Japan, I can really feel this, because this summer has been one of the hottest, probably history's hottest summer for us in Japan, and we are boiling. Now, what I'd like to do now is to offer a sort of alternative to the kind of paradigm that we have been living under. And we have been living under, in terms of civilization, kind of civilization, we've been living under industrial civilization, and global capitalism has been promoting this industrial civilization since at least the end of the 18th century. And, but that industrial civilization is collapsing because of all kinds of environmental problems and socioeconomic problems. So what we need now is a new view of the world to guide global civilization of the 21st century and beyond. And what I'd like to do is to offer Buddhism as an alternative view of the world that guides individuals and societies to follow the path of sustainable development. And there are, we can draw hints from the world's Buddhist leaders as to what we need to be doing. For example, Dalai Lama published a book called Our Only Home in 2020, in which he talks about the importance of committing ourselves to moderate living, moderation. Moderation is the key word here. Simple and contented life. This is where Santuti comes in. Well, Zen Master Shen Yen from Taiwan also talks about the importance of contentment, reducing desires, knowing contentment, and also the importance of generosity towards others. Another Buddhist leader, Thich Nhat Hanh, from Plum Village, he talks about the importance of mindfulness and mindful living. Mindful living is the practice of happiness, and the capacity of being happy, capacity of being loving is what we have to cultivate in our lives. Since we are not living by ourselves, we are living in an interconnected world. So mindful living, that the spiritual dimension of sustainability is extremely important. That's what his words. So to summarize what Buddhist path to sustainability is all about, I chose 3 Pali words: Santuti, Sanivaso, Sati, which can be translated as contentment, moderation for Santuti. Sanivaso has a companionship of mutuality. Sati, consciousness and mindfulness. So these, since our existence takes place with respect to 3 environments, natural, social, and spiritual environment, these 3 components of our good citizenship as global citizens, you may say so, involves these three elements. And Buddha himself had, of course, this to say. His prescription for sustainable living was in terms of the so-called Noble Eightfold Path, Paticcasamuppada, which he unveiled in his first sermon. And perhaps, well, it may not, well, this is my own interpretation of Eightfold Path as consisting of 4 mental actions and 4 bodily actions. And what is interesting, what is insightful about Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path is that by trying to keep the middle path, we are trying to keep the energy level constant. We will be finished. Oops. Okay. Now, President Obama expressed some doubts about, well, can we do it? Can we follow the path of sustainable development, as I just mentioned? Well, he has some doubts. And if you look around, yeah, we can sympathize with his view that whether humanity can get its act together. But we know we have to get our acts together. Since a choice is ours, which path do we choose? Path of despair or path of hope? And the picture speaks itself. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I totally believe that Buddhist economics and moderation can serve as a great path, a great way to reach sustainability. Well, now, Mom Longdit Panada, let's talk to you. You've been taking care a lot of projects under Mae Fa Luang Foundation, right? And also the famous Doi Tung Development Project. And you have worked with a lot of people, both in local and international level. So my question to you is that how did you create Doi Tung Development Project to become, as mentioned, an integrated sustainable alternative livelihood development initiative? Please, can you elaborate on that, please?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be speaking particularly on the issue of sustainability and sufficiency economy philosophy of His Majesty the late King. Doi Tung is somewhat, I would say, relative to other royal projects. I think the problem statement was quite clear. We're talking about the time when we started implementing something close to 40 years ago. So if you can imagine Thailand 40 years ago, up in the northern part near the border, there are not a lot of opportunity, and there are a lot of illicit activities that are being put in place. And I have to say that the people in the area are vulnerable. Now, when you look at livelihood of the people and you look at people's vulnerabilities, and then you question their illegal activities, right? Opium cultivation, drug trafficking, and so on. I don't think it is fair. And I think that's how the royal family members saw the situation back then. So from day one, our work was all about growing the people. It's all about how can we provide alternative, how can we provide opportunities so that people can work themselves out of the situation that they're in, work themselves out of vulnerabilities. I think the message of getting the people to work themselves to achieve something, that in itself is a concept of sustainability. Fast forwarded 35 years later, now Doi Tung has become a globally recognized social enterprise. We are financially self-sustained. We have our businesses. We employ local people, and we're growing our market domestically and internationally. On top of that, Doi Tung is now utilizing our knowledge in sustainable development, and we have worked in other areas inside Thailand and outside of Thailand in some very, very challenging countries like Afghanistan, Myanmar, facing same problems that Thailand did 30, 40 odd years ago. And I think that now it's the whole concept of sustainability is even more important. We are all sitting here today, and as Professor Koizumi has said that we felt that the climate has changed. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the UN, has also mentioned that we are now moving beyond global warming to global boiling. I'd like to say that the message that both professors had given was very much in line with what we are currently doing. I describe the model, your Buddhist concept, as the 3G model, which only involve one greed, right? Greed is the core. I would say it's the engine that drives growth. And by having uncontrollable growth over consumption of natural resources, we create this whole situation of global imbalances where we are today. And when you look at the future generation, I think we now realize that we are passing on the problem to the future generation. And we also have the key to solving the problem. One issue: do we have the commitment to do it? Do we want to do it? SEP is, for me, is Intel. It's the core engine that drives sustainability. The concept in itself is strong enough, yet vague enough for all of us to use in our own way. It is not a one-size-fits-all concept. If you're in a rural community, you might determine it one way. If you're in a city, you might determine it one way. And in Doi Tung, I believe this is what we have done. When you talk about empowering people, when you're talking about getting the people to work themselves out of the situation, when you're talking about trying to meet the triple bottom line of economic, social, and environmental impact. And now I believe there is also a fourth bottom line, which is the state of your mind. What do you want to do, and how do you think, and how are you going to transform yourselves over the coming years? I have not been a very good Buddhist, I have to say. But in the last 10 years, I have been very lucky to be close to Buddhism and being able to absorb the concept of Buddhism. But not praying Buddhism, but more practical Buddhism. To me, Buddhism is a self-improvement guide. It's like a life coach on how to improve yourself. And that allows us to create a better, I have to say, a better person first, and then a better organization. So if you want to transform an entity, you want to transform a country, and you're talking about meeting the sustainable development goal. You're talking about, pledging to all the climate situations that all the companies are now doing the net zero, and you're not willing to transform yourself. That is crazy. Platform like SX is a platform where all of us can come in and learn about what others are doing and to absorb and to look at yourself on how to improve not only the organization but also yourself. I look at SEP and sustainability as a risk management concept. How do we diversify the risk? So if we don't consume too much on a personal level, then you have less of a chance to borrow. If you manage your greed, you want to have a big house and then you said a smaller one will do, then I think that is something that you again manage your risk, manage your exposure. Same can be said for an organization. I don't see SEP any different than ESG concept. If you done correctly, you can integrate them into the business operation, which Doi Tung has done. I believe that we also have an ESG in process, integrated into our everyday business operation. I think that for Doi Tung going forward, I think it's more now on how can we leverage the concept or the practice that we have accumulated over the years on sustainability development or sustainability practices, and how can we help scale the new initiative that companies and other organizations are looking at. The two speakers have touched upon the problem that we are faced with. If capitalism is driven by greed, and that is causing imbalances in the world, and that is corrupting the minds of the people and the minds of the future generation, then isn't it time for us to redefine capitalism? Can we have a new capitalism that is more inclusive? Can we think beyond ourselves, our organization, and to incorporate other stakeholders? Can we look at prosperity as an all-inclusive concept as opposed to I have to prosper at the expense of others? I think if we can have that kind of mindset, if we can have that kind of guidance, life guidance that will help us looking at how to conduct ourselves, then I think that is the basis for all of us to grow, and it is the basis for all of us to create the brighter future, and that is probably the prerequisites for all of us to redefine the new capitalism.
Well, thank you very much. So now I guess that we have to really ask ourselves if we are really ready to do it, if we are really committed to do it. So Doi Tung Development Project is one of the great successes that serves as a great example that has truly transformed many lives and unfortunate people. So back to you, Professor Stephen. Yes, as all of you know, that our world is revolving around changes, constant changes, and also challenges that lie ahead. So in your view, how can we cope with those changes and also challenges that in order to help prepare ourselves to go towards sustainability?
Thank you very much. I think that is perhaps the question. And I would like to elaborate with another question. A question for whom? Is the response to challenge for the Puyai, and only the Puyai Tanan Kap, or is the response for Tuktukon, everybody here? Let me comment on a very important teaching We just learned from Professor Koizumi in his chart. So he talked about the Noble Eightfold Way. But he had two new things to me, and Kunduk and I, we were very impressed. So he put 4 of them on one side, and he put 4 of them on a different side. So 4 of them are talking about the brain, the heart. And he noticed this concept is potential energy. Potential energy. It could be out there. It could respond to changes, Ajahn. It could make a difference, but it's potential. So what do you have to do to turn potential into kinetic energy? The actions he called kinetic energy. And I would symbolize that I have potential energy if I think about it. I have kinetic energy if I act on it. So therefore, there's the slide. Therefore, we need to ask, what do we do? I would think each one of us, depending on who we are. If I am a puyai, I have a lot of opportunity. If I'm just one person living in, let's say, a village in the Northeast, and in the old days I would have had one water buffalo, now maybe I have a small tractor. But I'm just one person. But I have a wife, I have kids, I have neighbors. I can do things. The next question is, what are my duties? The concept of nati. I think that's an overlooked concept, the concept of duty, Professor. We talk about greed, we talk about myself, we talk about the food I eat, the car I drive, the house I own. What are my duties? What do I do for other people? I've been struck in Bangkok the last 3 or 4 days by traffic jams. ถนนติดมากเลยครับ The other night, it took me 2 hours to get from here back to Chulalongkorn. Unusual circumstances. But why is there so many traffic jams? One, there are a lot of cars. Why are there a lot of cars? People buy cars. How can people buy cars? They have money. Why do they have money? Because Thailand has economically grown. But how should we think about our kinetic energy and our potential energy? Many people around the world, many Americans, frankly, are what we say in English, are cynical. They say people aren't going to change. We're all selfish. We all have these, we don't follow the Buddha's teachings. We have the 3 things. We have selfishness, we have more, and more. What is the solution? I would like to suggest that the solution is actually inside each and every one of us. So as you leave here, given the success of, well, let me say it this way. The success of this Sustainability Expo, the learning that's here, the demonstration, this could not have happened in Thailand 20 years ago. Thais have been doing something. I think with the leadership of His late Majesty, but it's the Thais who've been doing it. And it's not just Thai Bev, a very important, successful company. It's all of you who came, it's everybody else. What is the most important thing? Let me close with in Thai, Jai. It's the heart. Shin, thumb, the heart. Everybody has it, each one of you, right? Mi Jai Ma. Sia Jai. Sabai Jai. Greng Jai. Kao Jai. Each and every one of you have a heart. You all experience. เป็นมีสบายใจแล้วมีเสียใจเกรงใจ when it's done เข้าใจ I think maybe the most important word to take away from this is เข้าใจ does your heart understand? And I think each and every person in this room has the heart to go out and make the world better. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much. And I think that is the points you already made should be a good start for our planet and for our world. Well, back to you, Mom Luang Dit Panada. I would like to ask the question, because you have been taking Mae Pha Luang and Doi Tung into the international level. So I guess the sufficiency economy is a universal philosophy. So how do you apply sufficiency economy into your development projects in an international level?
I think that in order to become something, I think it's an organization is the sum of its part, which means that building understanding for all the people in the organization is very, very important. I've mentioned in my previous session that it is also important for every one of us to transform ourselves. So getting the buy-in from your own team members is as important as getting the buy-ins from the community. The message that we are communicating to our to the people that we're working with in the rural communities, do they believe in what we're seeing, in what we're saying, right? Does our team member believe in what they're saying? Belief comes from understanding. Understanding comes from practice. So I think there are a linkage here that in order for us to go and help others, we must first train the team members, train the people to understand the concept so that they can then communicate to the people in the rural communities. Same can be said for an organization. Same can be said for a company. Same can be said for people within the household. When our parents, right, or us, telling our kids what to do we practice it? You should save your money. You shouldn't buy things that you have no need to. Do you buy things that you have no need to? Do you save your money? Right? Because see, that is the concept that is extremely important. Because if you don't embody these concepts, then others are not going to believe you. So practice what you preach is important. And practice is something that I think is very difficult, because in order to do something, to become an expert at something, it requires 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours to become an expert. 10,000 hours is roughly about 417 days. 417 days is what, like 1 year, 1 month and a bit, right? So you need to dedicate it that amount of time to do it. So it requires consistency, it requires continuity, it requires a lot of hard work. And I think that is how we are able to transform the communities. That's how Doi Tung is able to work in other countries, in different contexts. Because first and foremost, the people in our organization believed in what they're doing. They believe because they have done it, they have seen the success or the outcome of what they have done, and it's addictive. It catches on, right? When you work, when the team sees the transformation that has happened, right? Doi Tung, for example, I was there when I was 16 years old. Now pushing 50, Doi Tung is still there. The environmental transition that I have seen is very rewarding. The trees that I have seen planted on the side of the road are now grown, become a very, very big tree that are providing shades for the people, for the communities, for the commuters. That's what we have seen. So continuity, patience, right? It's key, and we have to keep at it in whatever we're trying to do. So Doi Tung, now we're in the process of yet another transformation. We're now building another generation of leaders. We're now trying to institutionalize our organization so that the work can continue on, even without me or without the support of our colleagues or our partners, right? So I think that is something that we have to look at. And again, it all starts from within. It all starts from yourself, and we need to do it. We need to become the agent of change that we are speaking about.
Wow. I guess that not just only sufficiency economy is a philosophy that is universal, but it also requires commitment. It requires patience and hard work to achieve. Right. So I guess now we have around 15 minutes left, and here we come to the wrap-up session, I guess. So, Professor Koizumi, I would like to know from your point of view, how do you see the world after 2030? What do you think it will be the next chapter?
What happens to the world after 2030? Well, that's a tough question. Well, President Obama had his doubts about what we, humanity, can get our act together, and I do have some doubts looking at how our politicians, business people behave in Japan, yet because they are still working under the paradigm of global capitalism. Now, whether we can go beyond 2030 all depends on the kind of worldview. I think worldview is very important. Worldview dominates, in simple terms, what is regarded as successful in society. Now, capitalism is an action-oriented society. Now, I showed you the picture of Buddha's idea of balance between mental and physical activities. But capitalism has put too much emphasis on the action side, action-oriented, not much on reflection. In terms of what Buddha was telling us is we need balance between reflection and action. But the system that we have developed over the past couple of centuries has been putting too much emphasis on action. Unless we get out of this mental attitude, we are not going to solve the kind of problems that we are faced with. So I share a certain pessimism with President Obama, but in the meantime, I do see some hopeful signs, like coming here to Bangkok and looking at how young people are participating in this wonderful project, sufficiency for sustainability. I think there is the hope. If there is hope, the hope has to come from individual level, individual commitment. We have to start acting as individuals, as responsible citizens of the global world. That, I think, is the only way.
Oh, that is a great point. Thank you very much. So what about you, Mom Luang Ditpanada? What does your future look like?
Honestly, I am worried. I don't think that we have the political will to do what we have promised. And I think we understand why we need to do it, but we let short-term prosperity dictate how we want to, how we work. We have solutions to address the climate issue today. We have the knowledge globally to work together and do some serious transformation. But yet there are little pockets of greed, of the need to stay competitive, the need to stay ahead. And despite the fact that we come together every year to make the pledge, to sing a song about how serious the problem is and how we must prepare a better world for the next generation. And that's all it is. It's just songs with no real practice behind it. The companies that are working very hard to transform are working very hard to transform. But there are probably less than 5% in the whole world. That's not going to solve any problem. So I think we need to look at this situation in a much more realistic and much more serious ways. One of the suggestions that I would like to make is let's price our natural resources. Let's start charging the actual price for air, for soil, for water. I think that might be one of the ways for us to start taking them into account when we consider our cost of production and so on. But if we don't do that, if we don't find ways to economically link these important issues into our production chain, then I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of changes. You know, people sitting in this room, you guys got to do more than just, you know, lifting up signs, say, you know, climate change is real. We have to change our behavior. You have to start asking, like, you know, like where the food come from. It's sustainably practiced, right? Do I need to buy shirts, fast fashion, jeans that, you know, one pair of jeans, you can drink water for the entire year, right? So these are things that we need to understand. And we have to make trade-offs. We have to make trade-offs. We have to sacrifice our well-being แลกความสบายเพื่ออนาคตของลูกหลาน That's what we need to do. We need to trade things that are luxury for us today for the future generations to enjoy. So ไม่ค่อยมีความหวัง
Totally agree. Well, ไม่ค่อยมีความหวัง As you see, we are all worried because right now I'm having my child with me on this session as well. So we should be worried. And also, I guess that sacrifice is key and balance is key, right, Professor Young? Yes, in your view, how to create a good balance in order to inspire a better world, one world that we are living in?
I think finding a balance, which we don't talk about very much, not taught in schools, but it's not hard. Because what does it take to find a balance? You have to be aware of two different things, right? In a simple sense, the balance is in the middle. There's the left, there's the right, there's the center. And if we understand the left and we understand the right, we can find the center. And we have teachers. We've heard the tradition going back to Buddha. We have other teachers in different cultures. In the Quran, for example, there's a concept of balance. It's called mizan. Not that many scholars, Muslim scholars, talk about it, but it's in the Quran. So I think it's a question, again, of mind and heart, which we've been talking about, which is within the realm of action by everybody. Even some bad people can get better. So it's a question of thinking about what's going on around us, What is too much? What is not enough? Where is the balance? Looking at like Doi Tung and others who find balance, it's building a self-confidence. I too I have my anxieties about our world, particularly on the political realm, in terms of the leaders we have in the world today. I don't think much of them. They're out there. But there will be new leaders in the future. And so the question is, how do we get younger people and other people to learn from their own experiences in their families, in schools, to say, I can achieve a balance. I can make money, but not too much money. I can participate in politics to do good, but if it goes too far, I don't want to do that. It's coming back to the Buddha and His Majesty King Rama IX. It's a question of our mindset, of our mind. What is Paupian? Where is that equilibrium? Where is that balance? I accept that I'm greedy. Yes, I like food. Sometimes I like to drink alcohol. I like to have a car. But how much food? How much alcohol? What kind of car? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We can all find this way of being dynamically engaged without going to extremes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I guess that's the wrap for this session. Do we still have time for the questions from the floor? Is there any questions for the speakers, for the panelists? If you cannot think of any questions or comments right now, I guess that you can leave the questions to probably some of the staff, and probably you can talk to the speakers yourself once the session is done. Well, once again, please give the round of applause to our three panelists. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Those are really powerful messages, and then thank you very much. Special thanks goes to our three panelists, Professor Stephen Young, หม่อมหลวงปนัดดา ดิษฐกุล and Professor Tetsunori Koizumi. Well, and definitely special thanks goes to all of you, the audience. Well, thank you for being with us all through the session. Well, I leave the questions to you about the commitment, about the sacrifice, and also about the good balance that will create our world to be a better place for us to live in. Well, once again, thank you very much, and I'll give the floor back to our MC. Thank you. ขอบคุณค่ะ
Powerful messages indeed. Another big round of applause for all of our honorary speakers. Thank you so much. And I would like to invite all of you to have a group photo together. Kindly step down. เดี๋ยวต่อจากนี้เราจะเข้าสู่การถ่ายภาพร่วมกันนะคะเชิญเลยค่ะขออนุญาตอยู่บนเวทีก่อนนะคะ Kindly remain on the stage as we're going to have a group photo together กลับเรียนเชิญนะคะ Let's have a photo together อันนี้จะเป็นช็อตที่1ก่อนนะคะเรียนเชิญค่ะเดี๋ยวช็อตที่2ค่ะเราก็ยังได้รับเกียรติจากผู้บริหาร VIP ที่มาร่วมงานกับเราอีกหลากหลายท่านนะคะเดี๋ยวเราจะได้เรียนเชิญขึ้นมาเป็นลำดับต่อไปนะคะ Now this powerful messages reminds me of the words of our late King Rama IX. You know, being a tiger is not important. The important thing is for us to have sufficiency economy. A sufficiency economy means to have enough to support ourselves. And sufficient economy can be applied to all levels, branches, and sectors of economy. And it isn't necessarily limited to the agriculture or rural sectors or even the financial and the real estate and the international trades and investment sectors. Let me move along to our second shot. เดี๋ยวขอเรียนเชิญผู้บริหารนะคะท่านอื่นๆที่ให้เกียรติมาร่วมงานกับเราได้ขึ้นมาร่วมถ่ายภาพด้วยนะคะเรียนเชิญค่ะเดี๋ยวจะต้องให้คุณต้องใจเรียนเชิญนะคะทุกท่านเลย Kindly join us for the second shot. Our VIP executives and VIP guests on the front row. Please join us. ใครขอเรียนเชิญเลยค่ะกราบเรียนเชิญนะคะหม่อมหลวงดิษฐปนัดดา has been mentioning about capitalism. You know, capitalism is if it's created by greed, then it's time for us to redefine a new capitalism for all of us for a sustainable world. While Mr. Stephen has been mentioning about us as a ผู้ใหญ่of Thailand is responsible for everything, and we need to ask ourselves what we can do as ผู้ใหญ่, and we have a lot of opportunities, a lot of chances that we can do things. And as for Professor Koizumi, he's been saying that we have to start acting as responsible citizens from now on to see a brighter and beautiful and better future. So that is all about sufficiency for sustainability that can be applied to all levels, branches, and sectors of the economy. And it isn't necessarily limited to the agricultural or rural sectors or even the financial, the real estate, and the international trades and investment sectors by using similar principles of emphasizing moderation in performance, reasonableness, creating immunity for oneself and society. So thank you once again, a big round of applause for all of our guest speakers and VIP guests for joining us.